welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 10-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I have released multiple MLB DFS packages over there on Patreon. Go ahead and check those out if interested. Link to them in the description. And today, those will be free. As always, on Friday, I give away my Patreon content for free. So you can check out my MLB package to see what I have to offer. And it's just a way of giving back to the viewers. I appreciate you guys tuning in. All I ask in return is that you hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. So you can follow me over on Twitter at KJK DFS. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So as always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the guy that has the best K rate on the slate today is that Yu Darvish, taking on the Chicago White Sox. He's got a 30.9% K rate, a 13.3 swinging strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff is pretty good. The hard hit rate's very impressive. He's got a 36.7% K rate against right-handed hitting. The slugging, the woba, the hard hit, impressive once again. And then I got a 26% K rate against the lefties. So he's taking on Chicago White Sox team, which while they do slug, they definitely have some strikeouts in the lineup. So when looking at the Vegas lines today, he is a 155 favorite. So Vegas is expecting him to get the win today, which increases the appeal of him, and he comes in at a 10-8 price tag on DraftKings. So definitely like Yu Darvish today, probably top pitcher of the slate. Moving further along, next on the list is that in Carlos Carrasco. Carlos Carrasco has a 29% carry, a 15.1 swinging strike rate, a good fly ball walk rate, a 30.2% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 27.8% K rate against lefties. So he's very solid across the board, and he gets to take on a Pittsburgh Pirates team today, which when looking at my team hitting data sheet that I offer over there on Patreon, once again, free today, check it out, link in the description, you will see the Pirates are not good. Right now, I have my sheet sorted by K rate, worst in the league, and the Pirates come in, ninth worst. And more importantly, when looking at their WOBA, their ISO, their slugging, their BABIP, and everything, it's right across the sheet. I mean, they're just not a good team. And then when you look at how they perform against right-handed pitching, which is what Carlos Carrasco is, a right-handed pitcher, very, very bad, right across the sheet. So the Pirates have just been bad all year long. They have the strikeout rate, and they're just not a threatening lineup. And then when you look at the Vegas lines for this game, you can see that Carlos Carrasco comes in as a 277 favorite. So very, very good spot for Carlos Carrasco. He comes in at a 10-4 price tag. And while I had said that Yu Darvish is probably the top pitcher of the slate, I mean, Carlos Carrasco is right up there, especially when you're factoring in his matchup against these Pittsburgh Pirates. Definitely like Carlos Carrasco today. Moving further along, next on the list is Mitch Keller, but we're going to kind of skip over him because while he does have a high strikeout rate, he's definitely not up here with these premier names we're talking about. Chris Paddock next on the list, taking on the San Francisco Giants. He's got a 26.2% K rate, 11.4 swinging strike rate. The ground ball, fly ball stuff is respectable. The walk rate's very good at 30.2% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 22.5% K rate against lefties. So he really does excel against right-handed bats, so we want to target him in right-handed heavy matchups if at all possible. And when looking at the matchup today that he gets taken on these San Francisco Giants, you can see that they do have their fair share of, it's kind of a split lineup right down the middle, to be honest, but with that being said, they're not the most threatening lineup in the world, and then you factor in that Paddock gets to go into San Francisco, so he gets a big ballpark upgrade, which is always nice to see as far as pitching is concerned. When pitchers are visiting San Francisco, it definitely increases their appeal. So Chris Paddock, definitely a good option today. Clayton Kershaw, definitely a good pitcher in real life. Not always the best in fantasy sports just because his strikeout rate isn't the highest. He still gets the job done in the ground ball and the fly ball. He does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. He's got a 26.2% K rate against right-handed hitting and then a 24.8% K rate against the lefties. So he's a really solid pitcher all around. It's just a matter of if he's going to get the job done for us for fantasy purposes. And then when you look at the Angels on my team hitting data sheet, you can see that they don't really strike out a lot. They have a 20.8% K rate. Their ISO, their slugging, their BABIP, and all that stuff isn't the greatest in the world, but they just don't strike out a ton. And specifically when looking at their numbers against lefties, they do perform worse against lefties for sure, but the strikeout rate's still not the highest. So, yeah, just factoring this stuff in when we're pitching when we're picking guys to play in our lineups, we have to think about these things. And Kershaw comes in at a 10K price tag today. So he is a 217 favorite, so they do like him to pick up the win. But when he's priced at 10K, and we can just go to a Yu Darvish at 10.8 or a Carlos Carrasco at 10.4, I think I'm going to go with them because their matchups are better, and I do think they provide higher strikeout upside. So Kershaw is definitely not a bad option, but these are just the things we have to think about, and those guys definitely, I think, have higher K upside today. Next guy on the list that we'll want to target is that in Jose Berrios, taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Berrios comes in with a 24.3% strikeout rate and 11.1 swinging strike rate. Ground ball, fly ball, walk, hard hit rate stuff's all good. He has a 23.6% K rate against right-handed hitting and then a 24.9 against lefties. And he gets to take on the Cincinnati Reds today, who once again are a lineup with some pop, but they do have their fair share of strikeouts in there. So a guy like Berrios who has some good stuff, he can definitely get some swinging strikes, and we definitely have some interest in him today. He comes in as a 162 favorite in Minnesota, so Berrios definitely a guy to have interest in. And, that's pretty much a good sum up of the upper tier pitchers. When looking at guys that we're going to want to play for salary relief purposes, I would say the very first guy we're looking to pay down for, so to speak, he's not the cheapest in the world, but J.A. Happ at 8.6K taking on these Miami Marlins. Because of the matchup, the Marlins have really been struggling. He's got a 23.5% K rate, a 23.3% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 24% K rate against lefties. And he is much better in the hard contact category against lefties, so we do prefer to target him against left-handed heavy lineups if we can. And the Marlins definitely don't provide that when they roll out their right-handed heavy lineup. However, with that being said, I don't really think we have to be the most concerned because, they're the Miami Marlins, no offense, but they're not really the best lineup in the world. So I do think that J.A. Happ's definitely a viable option. And then, we had discussed Mitch Keller's K rate. And he's definitely a guy that you could play because of his K rate. But when I'm kind of hunting here to figure out our next paydown options, I think we have a couple. The first one, we'll go ahead and cover Chris Bassett at 7.9K, taking on the Seattle Mariners. He comes in as a 223 favorite, so he's a very, very heavy favorite. And when looking at his numbers, he's right there on the list with J. Happ as far as strikeout rate. He's got a 22% strikeout rate, a 19.6% K rate against righties, and then a 24.5% K rate against lefties. So he actually excels more against lefties in the strikeout category. And when looking at the Seattle Mariners team that he's taking on today, they definitely do have more righties than lefties. So, that could be a downside. But once again, we had discussed the Giants not being a threatening lineup. The Seattle Mariners fall in that category as well. And Bassett's definitely got some strikeout upside taking on this Seattle Mariners team today. Definitely think you can target the Mariners. I feel comfortable with that. And then the last guy that I will mention is Brad Keller. And I'm going to mention Brad Keller because of his matchup. He gets to take on the Detroit Tigers, who are the very worst in the league in strikeout rate. When you look at my team hitting data sheet and we go down to the Tigers, you can see they have a 27.5% K rate overall, a 28.4% K rate against righties, and then a 23.9% K rate against lefties. But that doesn't really matter because they're taking on a righty today. So 28.4% K rate, very, very bad. Even worse than their overall K rate of 27.5. So Brad Keller, definitely a guy you can have interest in today because of the matchup. And when you're looking at his numbers specifically, you can see that he comes in with a 16.7% K rate, worse on the slate. But his ground ball and his fly ball stuff's very, very good. His hard contact's very, very good. He's got a 15.7% K rate against righties, and he's very dominant across the board as far as hard contact and everything. It's just the K rate. And against lefties, it's the same story. So he's a guy that's a very, very good pitcher as far as getting outs, being controlled, staying in control of the game, but he allows the ball to be put in play a lot. And when you factor in his matchup with these Detroit Tigers who strike out a ton, he's going to get that K boost, and I definitely think he's a viable option, and he's the guy that I'd be paying down for today. Brad Keller, I like him as a salary relief option. And with that being said, let's go ahead and transition over to bats. Enough talking about pitching. Let's figure out some bats that we're going to play in our lineups today. And when looking at the slate, I always like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, skill, interactive, ERA. It's a great way of figuring out how good a pitcher's been so far in their career and how good they're projected to be in the future. And the worst on the slate is that in Kyle Wright. He's got a 5.84 Sierra, 6.63 ERA, not good. Walk rate's bad, hard hit rate's bad. He gives up a 409 slugging to right-handed hitting and then a 593 slugging to lefties. Very, very bad against left-handed hitting. So these Boston Red Sox lefties, we're going to have a ton of interest in today. So Rafael Devers, definitely a good option. Alex Verdugo, Jackie Bradley, you could have a ton of interest in. I will say that this Red Sox lineup is mostly right-handed heavy, and I think that's why they only have a 4.61 implied run total. I think if they had some more lefties in there, that probably would spike up, taking on Kyle Wright, but not a ton of lefties. So, however, with that being said, we could definitely go ahead and target the lefties at the top of this lineup. Alex Verdugo and Rafael Devers are absolute great options today, so like those guys. Next on the list is Sandy Alcantara taking on the New York Yankees. He has a 5.21 Sierra, a 18.7 K rate, a 10.8 swing strike rate. His ground ball and fly ball stuff's respectable for being the second worst on the slate in Sierra. He's very good against right-handed hitting, and then against lefties, he's not so hot. So, while Alcantara is definitely, he's second worst on the slate in Sierra, when you're factoring in the Yankees lineup and how many righties they have in there, I'm not really sure that I really want to stack this team up all that much. They do have a 5.59 implied run total, so that might spike their ownership. But when you're looking at Alcantara's numbers, he's not really allowing a ton of hard contact and fly balls to those right-handed hitters. So, while there's no doubt in my mind that the Yankees could push across 6 runs tonight, I'm not sure if they're going to be doing it with the home runs as they typically do. It might be punching balls in the gap because of Alcantara's fly ball, hard hit rate, and all that stuff. So I'm not sure if they have the best appeal for stacks today. But you always got to have interest in them. The Yankees, you can definitely stack them up. They have a 5.59 implied run total. That's very good. I just want to point out the downside in the data and the things that stand out. So, next on the list in Sierra being bad is that Dylan Cease taking on the Chicago Cubbies. You can see across the board, not the greatest so far in his career. However, he is a kid with a bunch of strikeout upside. He has a 27.1% carry, and then against lefties, it does drop down to a 16.6. So he's the kid that's supposed to have a ton of talent, and he's done pretty well in his career overall against right-handed hitting when it comes to the strikeout category. But when you go over to lefties, the 523 slugging is very, very bad, and that's just not going to get the job done. So the Chicago Cubs lefties, we can definitely have interest in today. Anyone looking at their lineup, we can see that they do have a 4.66 implied run total. The lefties, so Ian Happ, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, Jason Hayward, and Jason Kipnis. Those are the guys I want to have interest in today. It does look like there might be 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right field, so we'll have to keep an eye on that because that's less than ideal for hitting conditions if that's the case, but definitely have interest in those lefties. And with that being said, as we're going down my sheet here, we don't really have any gas cans today, so to speak. Gas cans meaning very, very bad pitchers we can just target across the board. So what I like to do is go ahead and start breaking down some splits, figure out some splits that we're going to want to target and give you guys those targets because I think it's a great way of figuring out the bats specifically that we want and then figuring out the stacks. If we're able to figure out a guy that's really bad against lefties and he has to face a lineup with a bunch of lefties, we are going to like targeting him. So, when looking at the splits, the next guy that I want to point out as far as targeting is that in UC Kikuchi. He has a 517 slugging. It's right-handed hitting, not good. A 361 WOBA, not good. Even the hard contact rate's not good at a 37.2% K rate. And he's taken on the Oakland Athletics today, which isn't going to fare well for him because the Oakland Athletics are a team that is designed to kill left-handed pitching. They have a lineup that's very well, it matches up very well against lefties. So Marcus Semien, Mark Canha, Stephen Piscotty, Chris Davis, Ramon Laureano, and Sean Murphy, definitely all guys that I want to have interest in. And then when you're looking at Kikuchi's numbers against left-handed hitting, you can see that it gets much, much better. So he does still give up a 472 slugging, which isn't good. So we can definitely still target the lefties, but they're not nearly as high of the priority for me as the right-handed bats are in this lineup with power. So Kikuchi, definitely a guy you could target today. Get those right-handed bats in. Next on the list is, we have two guys here that don't fare too well against right-handed hitting, so we'll just break them down back to back. But the first is Jose Urquidy for the Houston Astros, and he's taking on the Texas Rangers today, who is a team that's not very good. So I want to point out that you definitely can target righties against him, but when you're looking at the Texas Rangers lineup and the applied run total, they only have a 3.67, so I'm not really sure I'm looking to target a bunch of bats here. To be honest with you, I'd probably just be looking at Nick Solak as a one-off in the 5 spot if you're interested there, so he's a good option to fill in that second base spot at a cheap price tag. But other than that, I'm not looking to go there. And Tyler Anderson is a guy that I definitely do want to target because the K rate's bad, the ground ball, the fly ball stuff's bad. Against righties, he gives a 451 slugging. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff's very bad. And he has to take on the San Diego Padres today, who is a team that is scary good against left-handed pitching. So I'm definitely going to have interest in the San Diego Padres bats. The lines aren't up yet, but they do crush left-handed pitching. And while it's in San Francisco, I do think we can get them low-owned. So Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Austin Nola, Will Myers, Tommy Pham, all those righties that crush lefties, got to have interest in them. And then when you're looking at Anderson splits against left-handed bats, it doesn't get much better. Still a 520 slugging, not good. And that's actually way worse than his slugging against righties. And there's definitely some lefties in here you can target and throw in your stacks as well in Hosmer, Cronenworth, and Grisham. Yeah, so I would say the very, very last spot that I have to cover is Mitch Keller. We had discussed Mitch Keller's K rate. He does have a good K rate. However, when you look at Mitch Keller's splits, he has a 30.8% K rate against righties. He still goes up at 482 slugging to them. And he has a 21.9% K rate against lefties. It drops down, and his WOBA and his slugging are very, very bad. He has a 562 slugging against left-handed bats. But that's not going to get the job done, and that's going to make me like the Cleveland Indians lefties a lot today. So looking at their lineup, Francisco Lindor, Cesar Hernandez, Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, like all those guys. Tyler Naquin has some power. Josh Naylor has some power. And then as I discussed, it's not like he's outstanding against righties, so you can definitely throw in the power bat of Franmil Reyes in the middle of the order and Roberto Perez in the catcher spot to fill out your stacks and fill in the catcher position for you. So yeah, that is my overall breakdown of today's slate. Quick little overview of what I've gone over. And J.A. Happ's definitely a viable pitching option today. The Yankees are definitely a viable stack. However, I will say Alcantara is much better against right-handed hitting, so I'm not sure if I really want to go all in on the Yankees today. The Red Sox, you can definitely target taking on Kyle Wright, mostly the lefties, Verdugo, Devers. Like those guys a lot today. I like the San Diego Padres taking on Tyler Anderson. The guys that crush left-handed pitching, Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Austin Nola, Will Myers, love those guys. Chris Paddock is definitely a viable pitching option taking on the San Francisco Giants. I like Carlos Carrasco as a pitching option taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think I made it very clear how bad they've been this year, so I definitely like them, or Carlos Carrasco, I should say. And then I definitely like the Cleveland Indians as well, the lefties. So the elite bats, Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, Tyler Naquin. I like Franmil Reyes a lot. And then Cesar Hernandez does fill in the second base spot, and you can throw Roberto Perez to fill in the catcher spot. Brad Keller gets himself a big matchup bump. So while he's not the best in K rate, we talked about how good he is in the ground ball and the fly ball and every other category. So he's going to get a bump in the K rate, and I definitely think he's a viable option. Jose Berrios is definitely a viable option, and 162 favorite taking on the Cincinnati Reds. I like him. I like the Chicago Cubs lefties, Ian Happ, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, Jason Hayward. I like Yu Darvish a lot taking on the Chicago White Sox. Don't want to forget mentioning him. Clayton Kershaw is a decent option, but I do think his strikeout upside is limited at 10K because of the matchup and just his overall K numbers overall. Chris Bassett's definitely a viable option as a 233 favorite or 223 favorite. Taking on the Seattle Mariners, not the most threatening lineup. And then I like the righties for this Oakland A's team. Marcus Semien, Mark Canha, Steven Piscotty, Chris Davis, Ramon Laureano, and Sean Murphy. Like that stack today. So with that being said, before I let you guys go, I have to give you my home run call of the day. When we looked at the splits, we were able to determine that, Mitch Keller does really struggle against left-handed pitching. We were just going over or left-handed hitting, I should say. We were just going over this. So I definitely do like the lefties today for Cleveland. And when looking at their lineup, my home run call of the day today is going to be the leadoff hitter in Francisco Lindor at 5.4K on DraftKings. I think he's a great option today. I think he's going deep, but he's going to fill in that shortstop position for you. He's a elite bat, and I think he's going yards, so get him in your lineups. He's my home run call of the day. Francisco Lindor, I love him today. And that is all from me. If you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos that I release. Don't forget, it is Free Friday, so I'm giving away all my Patreon packages for free. Link will be in the description. Go ahead, check out my Patreon page, and the posts today will have public access. So you'll be able to go in, check out my cheat sheet, my power rankings, my team hitting data, my bullpen data, all that fun stuff, my hot hitter StatCast data tool. Free today. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. I wish you all the best of luck tonight and have a good one.